Well, welcome back to the shop and to the channel. We are very close to wrapping up the machining on all of this mess with these wheel dressers, at least until I figure out what I'm going to do about offsetting the holes on the back dresser here by 5 degrees. But what I can do is get this finished up. So I need to machine down this pivot pin so it isn't any really longer than it needs to be. So I think I can take quite a bit off of this. The next thing I will need to do is machine a pin then for the top part. So let me think about this for a second. I don't want to have to make this more than once, but I think that should probably be good around there. So that is about, it needs to be about 850 thousandths, 900 thousandths long. It can be longer, it's okay. So I think we'll do 1 inch. So I'm going to need to cut this off there, and then I need to machine the end of this down just so that will fit in it. That probably won't be very much at all. And then I'm going to drill and tap the end of it. I'll need to make a washer to go over the end so it can't move, to make sure it's captured. So this piece then is going to need to be about 2.25 inches long, and it can be a little bit longer, that's okay. I'll just need to work out some exact dimensions. Let's do that. Let's cut this off. We'll machine a shoulder on it, drill and tap it. I'll have to make a washer then for the end. That should be fairly straightforward. And then we'll find some material to make that 2.25 inch long pivot there. I can machine, I'll need to machine a flat in this vertical piece so I can weld it to it. That won't be too bad. All right, let's go over to the lathe. Let's get this started first, and we'll bring it back over here. We'll see how it fits up, and we'll go from there. I'm over here at the lathe. I'm going to get started here by cutting this piece to length. I've got a mark on it with a Sharpie, and we're just going to take it right down to that length. Maybe I need to go a little bit slower. So we are going to put this in back gear. That might work a little better. We'll see anyway. My history with this lathing and cutting off operations has not been overly spectacular. Another one of those times which I'm not 100% sure what this material is. I'm going to see if I can't break that off. There's quite a bit of a tip in there. Oh yeah, we can break this off. Busted that insert. Of course. Now I will admit that I typically buy some of the cheapest inserts I can find because I'm a hobbyist and I don't mind breaking a cheap insert. And with my limited skill set, nothing sucks more than breaking a $15 insert because you made a mistake. I buy $1 inserts. Actually, these might even be less than that. I'm going to slow this down to drill this hole. For some reason, I've been having some strange issues with drilling holes on this lathe. That kind of stuff. I mean, am I like... What in the world is going on with this? This is so bizarre. Why am I having these kinds of issues? I don't think I'm work hardening this thing, or whatever this material is, but I suppose it's possible. Let's switch to a cobalt. I'm actually drilling this a lot deeper than I need to. It's deep enough. It is weird. I don't understand why. Maybe it's this material. I'm not 100% sure, but I need to tap this for quarter 20. All right, got a tap here at the spring-loaded tap follower. I don't know how this is going to go. Yeah, I might try a different tap here than this one. See if I got one that might be a little bit sharper, better. Man, that feels tighter. But what I need to do now is just to machine a little bit off of the diameter on this so that fits in there without any kind of friction. So it ain't going to take much, that's for sure. That's my 0. I'm going to set that on the travel. This piece here is just a little bit more or a little bit less than 200 thousandths thick. So I only need to go to 200 thousandths to make this work. All right, there's 200 thousandths. That's my 0. I'm going to go in 5 thousandths. No, let's make it 10. It can be a little bit loose. So that's 5 thousandths on the diameter. That's really all I needed. Let's pop this out, and I need to make a small washer to go on the end of that. I do have this material sitting here. All right, a little more mystery metal here. Hopefully I'll be able to drill a hole in this without too much trouble. I want to make this washer just a little bit narrower than this piece, and I think I hit it. So that's good. I'm going to make 2 of them, one for top hole, one for the bottom hole. These need to be about 1/4 inch for a 1/4 inch nut. So we'll go up one size from 1/4 inch, which will be 15/64. I don't know if that's technically the clearance hole size, but it's the size I'm going to use. Well, that certainly drilled a lot nicer than the other material I was using. So I wonder if the other piece is also stainless. Again, I never checked it for magnetism, so I have no idea. Okay, these don't need to be that thick. I'm going to 0 here, maybe make these 100 thousandths. Should be good. Yeah, that's 100 thousandths. Might be going a little bit too fast. Again, this lathe cutting off, blah, blah, blah. Let's see how this does. Oh, this isn't bad. I could do this all day. Probably should have deburred the inside of those holes first, but too late now. All right, I'm going to deburr at least one of these and then take it back over to the drill grinder and see how that pivot fits on there so I can figure out how long I need to make that other piece. All right, we start putting this back together, at least for now. Back on this arm. All right, now I can put this pin here back inside here. Come on, there we go. I'll line this up and set this one in place. This should no longer spin on me, at least I hope not. Okay, that's tight. All right, I got you angled here so you can see kind of straight on from here. And this rod, I made this, or I didn't make this. This is too long for the way that this is set up. I don't know, maybe this wasn't off of a BW90, doesn't matter. But this needs to be way over here so that this hole right here lines up with that vertical piece. And the only way for it to go for this to go that way is this has to go this way, which means this is too long. So I need to take this off and make sure that I can shorten it. And if I can, to go ahead and shorten it. But now I'm also going to need to make this pin that will go here. And this pin needs to be about, I'm going to say 2 inches, 100 thousandths, so 2.1 inches. So I have some other material here. I don't know what this is made out of. It's magnetic, so I don't think it's stainless, but I have plenty here for this piece. But in the meantime, I need to take off this internally threaded rod, and hopefully I can make it shorter. I think I took a little bit off of the other end. I'm going to take a little bit off of this end too. I'm only going to take maybe 1/2 inch. We'll see how that works. All right, so reassemble this and see how this works. Okay, I shortened a little bit on each end. I also shortened the threads on this heim joint and shortened the threads on the screw. And with it as short as it can get, you can see here that is way over angle, which is great. And now when I crank this in, I have more than enough room here for that to be vertical and be able to take off that face. I still have plenty of thread, so perfect. All right, next thing I need to do is mount that pin, mount an extra pin here. Let's get this piece of scrap over to the lathe and start machining it. And we'll get this piece of material checked up in the lathe. First thing I want to do is go ahead and face it and then turn down the end of it for that pivot plate to fit into. I'm going to zero out my travel dial. I want to turn down the end of this, about the 200 thousandths of it, down to 377 thousandths. That should be the diameter of this hole. I checked it with a gauge pin. There's 100, and there's 200 thousandths. Might as well set the micrometer carriage stop here. Just come in like 30 thousandths. And we are at 478 thousandths. So I've got about 100 thousandths to come off. So I'm going to re-zero my crossfeed dial so I can start sneaking up on this. I'm going to try taking 50 thousandths off my first cut, see how that does. This is a ground insert, which is Not really great for this, but not a critical dimension. Okay, I missed my mark a little bit, only in I want to make that a little bit deeper. See how that fits? Yeah, I like it. I wanted to protrude just a little bit. It's a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. I don't mind it. All right, let's go ahead and break the edges on the front of this. Next thing I want to do is go ahead and drill and tap this. Of course, my favorite thread is 1/4-20, which is what we're going to do here again. So 1/4-20 requires a number 7 drill bit. Let's start with a center drill, of course. All right, the overall length of this is going to be 2.1 inches, or at least the length of the larger shaft. So let's pull this out, get my 2-point-something inches. That looks good there. And since I drilled a nice big countersink at first, I'm going to go ahead and put a live center in here, because I want to turn this down just a little bit just to clean up the outside of it. Yeah, I'm running this a little bit slow. First thing I want to do is just go ahead and touch off here, and I'm going to zero my travel, and we're going to come down 2.1 inches. Let's see, there's 1 inch, there's 2 inches, 2 inches, 100. So that's about what I'm targeting. We'll just go ahead and make a mark there. We're just going to take off 20 thousandths or so on the diameter, just to make it look a little nicer. Okay, there's my 2.1. We'll go another 100 thousandths just for good measure. I've been having strangely good luck here lately with parting off, which I don't quite understand until now, of course. So, did I work hard in already? You know, I think I'm hitting the chuck. Let's switch to carbide. Putting a nice heavy chamfer on it because I think I'm going to weld this in position. Kind of debating here now. Let's see how this goes. I think tempted to drill a hole in the center of this for a dowel pen. I think I will. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom of this for a dowel pin, and this is just going to help me align this when I mount it to that shaft. And I think what that buys me is some alignment. All right, next I've got a 187 thousandths reamer. Yep, I can feel it. All right, perfect. All right, the next step in the process is I need to drill a hole somewhere around here, or should I say flatten it, and potentially drill a hole for this piece to stick out there. So when this is up this way, this will be here, and then the rest of this sticks out like that, so to speak. So I need to find this spot. I want to mill a flat, and then I want to drill and ream hole that matches the hole back here, so I can use that as an alignment pin. Because I need these two to be parallel to each other and square. So first thing to do is figure out how I'm going to clamp this in the vise, because it is all sorts of different shapes. And what I came up with is using a V-block, and we'll clamp it to the V-block here lightly, because I need to line up this spot here where I can get a drill or an end mill in there. I'm a little worried that it's going to bump into something, so let me move this whole thing out, take a little bit more clearance, and I'm going to keep this loose because I need to locate that location there, and I'm going to use this pin here to do it. So I know this is 1/2 inch, so I'm going to use a 1/2 inch collet here. So I'll put this in the spindle, and I'm going to use this to line this up. It's going to have to float right around there. And now we'll just kind of, I could use an edge finder or something like that to find this, but I think this is going to be a little bit easier, because I kind of need this to float a little bit. Okay, I feel like this is fairly decently secure. That's tight, vise is tight, and this pin finds its spot there. Now that's going to end up being my 0, so I'm going to 0 the DRO, and I'm going to need to move it now. Unlock the table. We're going to move it 1 1/4 inches, because that's the spacing between those holes. Come up to say 40 thousandths. That should be good enough. It's all going to get welded anyway. All right, let's go ahead and take out this end mill and put the drill chuck. And as always, we're going to start with a spotting drill. All right, so got a drill in here. I'm going to set my stop here to a 1/2 inch. And then we're going to go down another 1/8 of an inch. Give me a little bit of room there. And we're going to speed this up to about 1200 RPM, which is what the feeds and speeds calculator said I should be using. And we're going to use a bunch of anchor lube. I will swap this out for the reamer. And if I got lucky and did everything right, this should be bit of a press fit, and it is, which is perfect. I have one more operation that I want to do on this, and it's on this piece. I want to put a set screw at the end of this. Let me break this down and get reset up so I can drill into the right side of this. All right, I got this set up here now on the flat. I had to hang it off the back here. I got a machinist jack up underneath this end to keep that nice and stable. I want to find the center and the front edge, so we'll start with my edge finder. Take this set screw, and that'll help keep that diamond nib holder in place when it's threaded up in there so it doesn't move. All right, next step is to go ahead and get this pin pushed into here, which will then push up into here. And originally I was thinking I was going to use this for alignment and then weld it, and I still might do that, but now I'm thinking, do I even need to weld it? I'm thinking maybe just some Loctite and press it together is all I really need. So I'm just going to use some bearing retaining compound and see if I can't make this work. Suppose if I decide I want to weld it, shouldn't pose too much of a problem. I don't know how well you can see that with my stupid hands in the way. Hopefully that's good enough. Find out here in a second. Let's go ahead and install it on drill grinder. See if we got it right. Okay, I think I've got this now assembled. This actually worked all right, just Loctiting it. I don't think I'm going to weld it. I might still, but because I think weld would look a little bit nicer. But I've got it attached to the pivot, and now when I crank this handle, this pivots this across. I'm barely touching it, which is where I want it to be. I've got the diamond nib locked into place. This is locked into place. So let's try facing this. Perfect. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of this black diamond drill grinder repair, restoration, whatever you want to call it. I'm really happy I've got this mechanism on here now to face the wheel. That will definitely come in handy as I use this machine a little more often. I still have to deal with this problem, which is the mechanism to face the edge of the wheel. As you might recall, if you've seen the other videos on this series, that the edge of the wheel is actually at 5 degrees. It's not perpendicular. And I machined this base and these pieces thinking that it was perpendicular. And it wasn't until I bought this grinding wheel that I realized it was not. And I did confirm with Black Diamond that these are cut at 5-degree angles. So that means I've got to modify some stuff. And that means I'm going to have to pull all this apart. So I might have to either completely remake or modify this base unit here. Now, I think I can get away with modifying it, but that's going to require some welding and some remachining. I'm going to have to plug weld the holes that I've already drilled in it for this pivot point. And then I'm going to need to remachine the slot so it's on a 5-degree angle. And then re-drill that hole so it's also on a 5-degree angle. I think once I get the holes plug welded and kind of get them cleaned up a little bit, that I should be able to do the rest of it in one setup, either on the K&T horizontal mill or probably on the Bridgeport. I think I can do it in one setup on the Bridgeport, and that way it'll ensure that I get that true 5-degree angle and that this pivot point is in the right spot. But until then, that's going to be a wrap on this episode of the drill grinder. I should only have that one piece left to do. Everything else is complete. It's going to be a little bit of work, but I don't think it'll be too bad. So stay tuned for that one. If you want to see how I finally do end up doing that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you'll be notified the next time I drop a video. I really appreciate you subscribing. For those that have, please like and comment. They do help the channel. If you'd like to support the channel in other ways, there's some links down in the description that'll tell you how to do that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Can't see anything through these glasses.